Hi, this is Vita Clucky with Vita's Collectibles. Welcome back. This is my second firing. This will be my second firing on the farm scene ornament. I'm glad you came back to see the finished piece. We're going to work on the winter scene and continue painting. I'm going to start by looking at the sky. I'm not real satisfied with how it turned out the first fire. I think it needs a little bit more pumping up, so maybe we'll put a little bit through here of that wispy sky. I like that just a little bit better, kind of at a diagonal. Give it some motion. Make it look like it could be a stormy sky. I put a little regular blue and then also a little peacock to cool it down a little bit. Alright. I think we'll call that good. Sometimes knowing when to quit is a big thing. I'll take my silk and clean up any area that got onto my trees. Now I'll go to my Deerfoot stippler and look at my trees. I'm going to, I have yellow brown and a little bit of yellow brown number 2 in there. I think I need a little bit more yellow brown number 2 here at the base in a few places. So I'm going to tap that in uneven strokes. Again, I'm working from the back forward. It might be a little strong. We'll wait and see here. All right. Now I need to look at the barn. I'm going to drop down to a smaller square shader and go back into my dullish red. And I'm going to drop this in under the eaves because I want some good shadow under the eave. And again, I have this on a little stand so it's easier to roll around. I don't have to hold it in my hand. I'm going to soften this now with my synthetic wipeout. Try to get some little barn strokes going in there like barnwood. You can use a toothpick to do this too if you want a little more detail. Just kind of wash that down a little bit like the barn's maybe faded down further here from the sunlight. Then with my worn out wipeout, small wipeout, I'm going to pull back the snow that's on the roof a little bit. Okay, I'm going to let that set for a little bit while I get my pen work ready. Now, this has more browns in it. My first other video with the church scene was more in the gray tones and cool tones, and so I used dark gray pen medium. This time I'm going to use a brown pen paint, and I have it already mixed up. And if you look at my other video on pen work, you'll see how I have mixed this and how to use the pen for the pen work. So basically now it's detail time. So I'm going to remix up my pen medium, or pen paint, excuse me, mixed with pen medium. Get it on my tile. I always like to use it on a tile. I feel like I have more control of the paint than if I dip my point directly into my jar. And here, take my guard off. Always put a guard on your pen point. Alright, let's scoop it up and give it a little try here. Looks good. Alright, I'm going to start with my windmill, and I try to find a place to rest my hand because of the pen work. Sometimes you get a little shaky. And with anything, I try not to tell the whole story, but I'm doing small triangular lines on the blades. I'm not pressing really hard, because I don't want really thick, heavy lines. So after I've gotten those outlined somewhat and shaped, I just connect them with an outline here with a little line. I try to keep that somewhat centered. I guess it does look a little strange, but that's what the wipeout tool's for. Let's bring this blade in here just a little bit more. There, I think that looks a little better. I had that one a little bit crooked, but I try to tell myself that these are old windmills and old barns, so they're not perfect. Now I start with the crossbars in between and fill those a little bit. And if it skips, that's okay. I think it might be because I'm going a little fast here that you can't rush that pen. It really helps when you do this to rest your hand. I don't usually put crossbars down below, but my study shows the basic outline for this. I'll go back then and I'll soften. I always set that back a little bit behind the trees. Alright, I wouldn't say that looks just too bad. And sometimes if I get one blade a little longer than the other, I'll take my chisel end and just push it back and kind of reshape it if I think it looks a little strange. And then if I think it could use a little more color, I'll go into my brown with a scroller and touch a few of the sidebars with a little China paint. Kind of pumps it up a little bit. So you can play with this as much as you'd like. I still think, like with most painting, less is better. Alright, I'm going to call that good. Let's go over to the barn now. I usually put a little split here where the top meets, give it kind of a separation, and I darken under the eave one more time with a little pen work. Just to give it a little more shadow and depth back there. And reshape the sides. Then I usually just do a simple little outline of the door here at the top of the barn. Detail maybe a couple cross boards. Try to make the barn door a little larger. It's tiny little handles, door handles, and usually these lean-tos have a little side door. See, I didn't get that super straight. I try to tell myself that's because the barn is leaning, but I do go back if it looks a little strange with the small wipeout or small square shader and just kind of reshape the edges. Pull them down. I don't get too worried about it. Little door handle here and here. Now, if you wanted more detail, you could, but usually this is about where I stop. Now, if I look at it straight on, it doesn't look quite squared up. Give it a little push or a shove and call it good. Alright, so we're coming forward. I sometimes go in with the pen and put in a few little details of maybe a few branches. Of some trees back here. And I'll soften that just a little bit here and there with the deerfoot. That may be a little bit too much. I don't know. I think that looks okay. Break it up a little bit. It looks like there's a little detail back there. Alright, my background is done. I'm coming forward now to my middle ground. I'll go to my larger square shader and go into my pewter color because I want to get some snow shadow built up under the barn. And I'm using the right side of my brush. And like I said in the other video, I don't do this very often, but in this case I do. So I'm going to apply that pewter down for some gray-blue cool snowbanks. Bring it on down a ways. Now, when I look at the path, it looks more like a stream because it's so cool and blue. I'll take my medium square shader and go into my lighter brown or my medium brown here a little bit. And I'll punch a little brown into that path to make it look more like gravel or a road, not so much like a stream or water. Cut a few highlights in it. It looks like it's rough. Okay, I'm going to go back to my synthetic wipeout and clean it real well with odorless mineral spirits here and good and dry. And when I work from this side, I pull those snowbanks, the highlights on the snowbanks, into the road gently. They're smaller back here, keeping perspective in mind, and as we come a little closer they can get a little bigger. I try not to make them look like a bunch of little cotton balls, so try to make them look a little bit different. Clean my brush again, and I'll push this into the path of the little road from that way now. And I'm wiping my brush often because I want to get rid of that paint now. I just want to create mounds of snow. Alright, now we're coming down. Looks like there's a little something going on in there now. That's a good thing. Back to the pen. I have to finish up that middle ground here before I go too far, or I'm going to get my hand in it. I just put little tiny areas here in the shadow areas of dark. And where it seems rather plain, maybe I'll pull a few grasses shorter back here. A little longer as we come forward. And I will soften some of those here in a little bit too after I get down here a little further. Now let's look at the wagon wheels. We have to give them detail. So on the inside part of that wheel, I'll put a shadow. One crosses over the other. outline that little center hub a little bit. And pull the spokes on in. Give it a little shadow underneath. And a little bit of grass that might be growing up around it. See, I already got my finger into there because I went a little far with my middle ground. So those are the old worn out wagon wheels. Try to give them a little bit of motion here too, like, yeah, they are buried in the grass there a little, the old grass that is all dead. And soften a few of these edges here with my synthetic wipeout. Just that little bit of line work gives that path a little detail. Right, back to the Deerfoot stippler. Let's give this little bit of grass here a little dark towards the bottom area. Back to the pewter brush. It's nice if you can keep a brush for every color and you're not stopping and cleaning up brushes. Let's punch a little shadow here. Back under here. And then back to the pen. We're almost finished, almost ready to sign it. Maybe I'll put some taller grass here. I tend to sign on the bottom right corner. That's, they say we read left to right, so it's kind of a safe place to sign your name. Get that motion going there a little bit. And I've kind of hidden my name slightly, which I think is a good thing. I like to make the viewer kind of search for it and not make it too obvious, but everybody's got their own way of signing, so you have to find what works for you. Bring this down into nothingness a little, and then I will take my sponge that's been wrapped in sports wrap and check my edges. Soften those up a bit. Now, if you were going to personalize the back, you could fire this and do that in a separate fire. But now this is ready for firing at 017. And the next step will be, I usually put on the no fire snow. So I just use a bit of water-based glue that will dry clear like Elmer's. Put it on a piece of broken porcelain or whatever. This is a piece that's been second fired and finished and ready for snow. So I will demonstrate how I apply the no fire snow. I just use an old synthetic angle brush and apply it to the top of the roof, areas that might hold a little snow. Tiny bit on a few of the snowbanks, and maybe just a touch here and there on where the snow is laying on the evergreen. This now is less is better. So this is just to accent, and this makes the iridescent crystals in the No Fire Snow really do pick up the light and make these ornaments sparkle when they're on the tree. So I'll just take a coffee filter then and sprinkle this on. Now this will stick for a while. After it dries then I would brush the rest of this off into the coffee filter and save what's left. But I would let it dry before I brushed the rest of the residue off. This is just a sample of one that's been dried and finished and cleaned up and got rid of the loose crystals. But you can see I accented the little tops of the posts and the roof, and just a few of the snowbanks on that. Not back here. Like I said before, less is better. Thanks for watching my part 2 video of the winter barn scenes. I hope you enjoyed it and that you learned things that will help you finish your ornaments. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for reminders on my future videos that are coming up. Hope to see you again. Thanks.